We have a really interesting news video today because WWE and AEW got some crazy stuff going on. First and foremost, Tony Khan is talking about some interest in signing some free agents. Also, on top of that, we are going to discuss Lio Rush, who clarifies his contract status with AEW. What he reveals could be worrisome, or maybe it's not a big deal at all. I would love to hear your guys' opinion. And WWE is reportedly changing the name of Elimination Chamber. And it's just really, really, really weird. But I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. As always, let me know what you guys think. My name is Ango. On this channel, I bring you my reactions to everything happening in pro wrestling. So we're going to kick things off with Lio Rush. He was on the Fightful podcast. He was asked about his AEW contract, whether or not he plans to be there long term. Basically, what he says is this. I will say this, and this is no secret, but this is just me pointing out the obvious. I'm a lone wolf. I go where I want. I like putting things on my resume. I like working in a lot of different places. I like wrestling everybody and anybody. Now, here's the thing. Basically, what Lio Rush is alluding to is the fact that he could work in AEW while still working with other companies, which is common knowledge in AEW. That is a luxury that you have. Now, I was always under the belief that with AEW contracts, you were signing a deal with AEW for X amount of years, and if you wanted to work elsewhere, you just had to get approval on it. So if you were contacted about doing indie shows or working in GCW or whatnot, all you had to do was get the approval from Tony Khan. So historically speaking, AEW has been a lot better in terms of wrestlers being able to work in other places. We've seen it with Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley working in New Japan as well. Now, the thing about Lio Rush is that he is currently working in New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW Strong, and then, of course, MLW. We've seen him there. There's rumors of him going to Impact and whatnot. So the real question here is this. Is AEW signing people to exclusive contracts, or is AEW signing people to contracts where they are first prioritizing AEW and then the other companies? Like, what exactly is a contract with AEW these days? Because I don't have a problem with this. I want to make that very clear. I don't have a problem with this. I just more so wonder, when it comes to like AEW's video game, when it comes to AEW merchandise, when it comes to AEW properties and IPs, are these people technically considered AEW talent? Is there any sort of exclusivity there, or are they just basically instituting a open door policy where they're just contracted for a few matches and that's it? Because, as you guys know, in the past I've talked about MLW signing talent to what is now known as the open door policy. So a free agent can come to MLW for one or two shows and that's it. And the idea is to provide, fans with like dream matchups and stuff. I don't necessarily like that. I like knowing that if somebody's going to show up in AEW, they're going to be there for a while. Jeff Cobb is a good example. During the pandemic, I think it was like early stages of the pandemic, Jeff Cobb showed up in AEW. He was only contracted for a few matches. Matt Cardona was only contracted for like 5 appearances or something like that. So at the end of the day, I like the idea of being able to be more open and working with other companies and stuff like that. But I'm not sure exactly how I feel in that regard if they're not actual AEW talent. But with that being said, this is not something I would necessarily worry about. I just wish there was a little bit more clarification because, as somebody like, if you guys didn't know, I have Ango Plays. It's my YouTube channel where I cover like the AEW video game. Like, now I'm curious, is Lio Rush able to be part of that game? Is he not able to be part of that game? I'm very curious on that in that regard. Also, are AEW talent allowed to be in other video games, right? Like the Wrestling Code is a video game that's coming out soon, made by Virtual Basement. If you're not exclusive to AEW, are you then able to do stuff like this? I guess that's just where I would like to see a little bit more clarification. Some very interesting news in regards to WWE's Elimination Chamber. Dave Meltzer tweeted about this the other day, and I thought this was really, really interesting. So basically, Dave Meltzer tweeted that WWE is looking at rebranding the Elimination Chamber to a new name, which would be the WrestleMania Chamber. Not official until it's announced. Now, what's really interesting is I saw this tweet. I didn't even think anything of it. But then WrestlingNews.co, Paul Davis, wrote something very interesting here. And I'm having a hard time trying to understand this. So basically what happened was Paul Davis of Wrestling News Co. posted on the website that it was reported that WWE is planning to use the structure for their return to Saudi Arabia next month. This is something that we discussed before. However, in Germany, the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view events are referred to as No Escape because the company wanted to avoid connotations related to the gas chambers used in the Holocaust during World War II. Totally understandable. And while none of this has actually been announced by WWE or confirmed by the WWE, I'm still having a little bit of trouble understanding this. If the issue is the word chamber, then why is the word elimination being removed from the match? Like if the issue is chamber, then it shouldn't be WrestleMania chamber. It should be something else, right? So instead of Elimination Chamber, WWE would call it Elimination Chamber. Or I'm sorry, instead of WWE calling it Elimination Chamber, it would be called WrestleMania Chamber. But according to this article, the issue really sounds like the word chamber is the problem. However, the word chamber is not being changed. I actually have no problem with the word Elimination Chamber being removed. I have no problem with them changing the name. In fact, I wouldn't even have an issue with WWE modifying the match type just slightly. I always loved Lethal, Lockdown, and TNA, so maybe they can try to copy that a little bit or mimic that in some capacity. Maybe just make some changes altogether with Elimination Chamber. But the name change is very odd, it's very weird, and I don't really understand it. All right, guys, and for our final story of the day, finally some clarification on the Briscoes coming to AEW. Tony Khan was on Busted Open Radio, as always. He's always talking about AEW, promoting AEW and whatnot. He talked about some of his signings. He talked about Mercedes Martinez, Brody King, and all of these great, talented people that they have. But there was a time in this radio interview thing where Tony Khan commented on the Briscoes. And obviously, as you guys know, the Briscoes and FTR have been dealing with this stuff since Final Battle. But now Tony Khan actually came out publicly and talked about this. He goes, well, it's a great team with a great history and Ring of Honor. We have a great roster right now. I think they are a great tag team and definitely somebody to keep an eye out on. But no, nothing official on them. We debuted so many great wrestlers recently. You mentioned Mercedes Martinez, and of course, we just saw the arrival of Brody King on Wednesday night. I would be remiss to think if we don't talk about the arrival of Brody King in the House of Black and what that represents. There's a lot of exciting things, of course. We do have new World Tag Team Champions, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, and there's tons of great teams lining up to challenge them. We will have to wait and see, and I guess, but they are a great team who I have followed for well over 15 years. Who am I kidding? Much longer than that, and I think they are great wrestlers. So again, now we're starting to actually get clarification on the Briscoes coming to AEW. There is nothing official. So that FTR invasion at Final Battle was just simply something that AEW did to help them out for one night. I do believe in the long term of things, the Briscoes will eventually come to AEW. Obviously, this social media back and forth between the teams is very interesting. But the fact that Tony Khan, for some reason, he can never be, it's not like the Briscoes are signed anywhere. I don't know why Tony Khan can't just... I feel like sometimes he talks about signing people and he's always just trying to get people to watch the product, man. I feel like not everything has to be a surprise pop. Not everything has to be a surprise debut. I would announce signings well in advance. I would air vignettes. I would do things to get people anticipated, to anticipate these types of things. That's just my opinion. We saw Jay Lethal. We saw all these different debuts. But I love AEW's video packages. And I think like even if you have the Briscoes, if you're going to bring them in, man, why don't you do some stuff behind the scenes video packages to haunt FTR on the arrival of Briscoes? I don't know. I just feel like there could be something so much better than just randomly showing up. Does that make sense? Anyways, I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. As always, I keep you updated on everything happening in wrestling. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.